Hey guys, it's Lisa from NYC Gal Outs. Welcome back to my channel. Guys, I'm legit on my deathbed. Like, I have the flu. You just got to let it run its course. And I'm just like, I'm legit dying. Has it run its course yet? But anyway, let's get to Real Housewives of Salt Lake City, Season 6 reunion. I'm just going to jump all around. My thoughts are everywhere. This part 2 was kind of boring for me. I couldn't stay awake. I was watching it, but it was like watching it where you're like kind of like dozing off, not really staying awake because it wasn't really interesting. And in between all of that, I was like checking up on like current events, checking up on emails, writing to senators and Congress, and like looking up shit. Let's just get into the parts that stuck out. What I want to say about Mary Cosby is that I do not know why people think that Mary's word is God. I hate it when I see people that say Mary never lies. That woman absolutely does lie. She's been caught in many lies, especially if you watch the show all the way from season 1, episode 1. But at BravoCon, Mary Cosby was asked about what happened, and it's very different from what she said at the reunion. So at BravoCon, when she was asked about what happened during the plane ride, she said, well, from where we were sitting, it was loud because we were all sitting in the same section, but you wouldn't have been able to hear her from like other parts of the plane. Listen, if you've ever rode on a damn plane in your life, you got to talk loud because you can't hear shit. I mean, I can't explain it to you if you've never been on a plane ride. I just can't. Even when you have headphones on and you're blasting your music, you could hear the engine of the plane. There is no way that you can drown out the engine of a plane. That's just not happening. That's very different from what she said at the reunion. And the reunion happened after BravoCon. So I feel like people are switching up their stories because also it happened throughout the whole entire flight, but now it only happened like towards the very end. Your chair was being kicked and she was shaking your chair and your hair was being pulled. But now you're adding on that you got wine spilled on you and all this other stuff. What I caught was Andy Cohen doing FAA, Air Marshal, FBI, federal guidelines. Holy fuck, you need to fix this. Andy Cohen very quickly says, no, she wasn't sitting with you guys. She was sitting behind you guys in a different section. Let me tell you, Andy Cohen, when he's on that reunion set, he has an earpiece on. He has producers that are also in his ears telling him how to navigate the reunion. Somebody was in his earpiece telling him, no, shut this shit down, because Meredith would not have brought that up to Andy Cohen's face and said, well, why don't you ask the producer? There was one sitting right next to us. That is not something that you bring up. But I also want to say that Meredith and the other ladies at BravoCon, go watch all the BravoCon clips. Now, when I say legal, I don't mean that they're worried about any of like the freaking talents doing anything. When I say legal, I mean FBI, Homeland Security, FAA. I mean the Trump DOJ slapping a freaking fine on Bravo, which really means they're slapping a fine on NBC Universal, which is parents by Comcast, whatever. But when Meredith said that, when she was like, well, why don't you ask the producer? There was one sitting right next to us. Legal was in Andy Cohen's ear. Shut the shit down, deny it, pivot, do something. So I don't buy it. And Mary's word isn't God's word to me. It might be to you guys, but that's because I legit think that Mary stands, drank the damn Kool-Aid. Listen, in order for a cult to be successful, you have to be charismatic, right? No one is in a cult that does not have a charismatic leader. So to an extent, I get it. It doesn't work if you can't convince people to deny your senses. And the reason why I've never jived with Mary is because when she was on season 1 and season 2, that was when Jen Shaw was on. And I've said this multiple times. I felt like the other ladies were comfortable to be confrontational with Mary because Jen Shaw was there. Mary could not pull that like black card, if you will, with Jen Shaw because Jen Shaw called her out on her own shit. In season 1, she even said, Mary, you're racist to your own people. You're saying you don't go to 7-Eleven because black people hang outside of it. She denies saying that at the reunion. Andy Cohen was like, we have video of you saying it. And then she was like, oh, okay, well, that's not what I meant. What I meant was that, I just don't like it because it's like they're hanging outside. But until Andy Cohen said we have footage of you saying it, she said, I never said that. That's not what I said. I never said that. Example number 1. Example number 2. Listen, I don't give a fuck. Just because you're black doesn't mean that you can go and disrespect another person's race and then be like, I'm black, I'm black. I can say it because I'm black. No, fuck you. Let me tell you, Kayla Nicole, she legit deleted her Twitter account because the Swifties dug up racist shit that she said. And she was just like, I'm going to delete my account because I don't even want to be affiliated with that kind of person that I was when I wrote those tweets. She says, I'm going to do better. That's growth. That's accountability. I am a huge Swiftie. So for me to even say that about Kayla, like, girl, please. But if you want to see actual growth and accountability, that's what it is. She didn't say, well, I'm black, so I can't be racist. What I was saying about Hispanics and Asian, I'm black, so it doesn't count. Because what the fuck was that? Like, girl, what? In season 2, she called Jen Shaw a Mexican drug dealer. First of all, you are being racist against Hispanics, particularly Mexicans. And second of all, you're being racist against Jen Shaw because she's Hawaiian, that's Polynesian. She's a Asian Pacific Islander. So like, girl, you don't even got the right race that you were insulting. And I feel like Mary has a lot of self-hatred for the fact that she was a black woman growing up in Utah, growing up in Indiana. Like, I legit lived in Indiana. It's white as fuck. She's in 2 states that are very predominantly white. Do I think she faced racism for being black? Absolutely. But sometimes when you face that kind of level of racism, you have internal self-hatred. Mary, if you look at her from season 1 to how she looks now, she should not be talking about anybody's facelifts, face surgery, face whatever. Because, and I already put up a picture of Mary Cosby, your vanity is not in alignment with God. You are a very negative woman yourself. You are supposed to be a church leader. What kind of decent Christian woman talks about someone looking like an inbred? But if Heather was to do a reverse Uno, then all of a sudden Heather would have been labeled as a racist. Fight with me in the comments if you want to about it, but it's true. Which leads me to example number, what, 3, 4, 5, 6? There is specifically a passage in the Bible. If this man or woman has had relations with this person, this specific person, do not lead down with this person. How the fuck she reconciles that? No, she's probably the biggest liar. She's able to do it better because you can't lead a cult without being charismatic. You can't lead a cult if you can't stand there and lie with a straight face. So if you've read Andy Cohen's Daddy Diaries memoir, he says that Mary Cosby didn't show up for the season 2 reunion, and he says, my golden rule, you don't show up for the reunion, you're done. So she was fired for season 3. It wasn't her choice. They did not give her a contract. And he said, he felt that Mary didn't show up at the season 2 reunion because he was going to ask her questions about her church that they didn't really get into in season 1, that he wanted to get more into in season 2, as well as asking her about the racist things that she said to other minorities. He said he had a phone call with Mary Cosby, and Mary Cosby says that black people can't be racist. But in that season 2 reunion, Andy Cohen actually asks the ladies, what do you think about Mary saying that? They were basically like, no, you absolutely can't be racist, which, like I said, being black does not allow you to be a fucking racist person just because you're black. And that white guilt, it does not work on other minorities, which is why it didn't work on Jen Shaw. But like these other ladies, it's working on them because they don't want to be called a racist. Which leads me to example number 25, 26. She calls Whitney a racist at the reunion. Andy Cohen wouldn't let it go. And he was like, why is she a racist? What has she done specifically to show you that she was a racist? Give me an example. Mary Cosby was on the spot. When people say, oh, Mary Cosby doesn't stutter, you want to see her stutter? Watch that reunion. She was stuttering because she thought as a black woman that Andy Cohen was just going to take her word for it. And Shed Media, unlike Evolution, Evolution is the production company for OC. Shed Media is the production company for Beverly Hills, Roni, Ultimate Girls Trip, and Salt Lake City. Shed Media is way more progressive than Evolution. You see it from the casting choices of Beverly Hills, as well as the fact that even in the original Roni, when they brought in Ebony, because she was the first black woman on the Roni cast, they actually brought in like I don't even know what to call it, like a sensitivity training, whatever the fuck. Ramona put her damn foot in her mouth because she was legit just asking stupid racist questions that legit showed her whitey ass. But the fact that Shed Media brought in someone like that to navigate having the first black woman on Roni, like that says to me that Shed Media, unlike Evolution, cares very much about the optics, which, by the way, Evolution is owned by Amazon Studios, but Warner Brothers, as big as a studio as they are, Warner Brothers is facing so much financial difficulties, if you will. Now there's like something going on where Netflix is making a bid to buy Warner Brothers. So I'm going to say they're not as stabilized as Amazon Studios. They don't have the backing of that Amazon enterprise. The majority of their big contract does not come from being an online retailer anymore. The majority of their money comes from being a cloud service. They were the first ones. I'm getting way into the corporate details of it. I probably lost most of you guys on what the hell I'm even talking about. But my whole entire point is that Shed Media cares about the optics. So if you guys want to see when Mary Cosby was stuttering over a lie that she told, look at that reunion. She couldn't really say, well, I just don't like her because, she brought up my church being a cult on TV. I mean, that's probably what it was, because little girl did say that on season 1, that. So she came up with like, well, because of her Mormon faith. If any of those ladies on there are legit Mormon or a Christian woman, so that means that you are not supportive of the LGBTQ plus community because of your Christian faith. That's basically her comparison. Let's talk about Britney. I don't mind Britney. I know a lot of people are like, oh, she's annoying. I'm so tired of Britney, whatever. I think Britney is quirky. Do I think she's thirsty to be on TV? Yes, I do. When she came out, Andy was like, how are you, Brittany? And she said something like, oh, I'm so excited to be here. Andy was like, I know you are. And he even said on one of the podcast interviews that he did, he was asked, who do you think is the most thirsty housewife? And he said, Brittany Bateman. He did not even hesitate with that. So look, do I care that she's thirsty to be on TV? I don't, because that's ambition. You don't think any of those other ladies want to be on the show? They do. Nobody's putting a gun to their head. They could walk away any day. They are there for 2 reasons. The main reason that I personally feel is that the majority of these housewives are not rich. They are upper middle income, but they're not rich. So I think the number one reason a lot of these women do it is because of the paycheck, because they need to be financially secure so that they could get a damn divorce from somebody who's cheating and farting. Money buys power. Money is one of the few ways that you can get power. And now the second reason why a lot of these housewives do it is because they want to be on TV. Listen, being on TV opens up a lot of opportunities for you that you otherwise would never have gotten. You see that especially on a franchise like New Jersey. And these Bravo levities, they're not celebrities in the sense that they are recognized outside of this very niche audience. They're not celebrities in the sense that they have a talent. Their talent is being on a network that is basically known for messy ass dramas. So their talent is basically being messy ass drama queens. But when you're getting a paycheck to throw parties and get glammed up and go on vacation, that's a huge incentive. So look, I enjoy watching Britney on my TV screen. I think she's batshit crazy, but just how like there are Mary Cosby stands out there who legit could get over the fact that she laid down with a man who laid down with her grandmother. It's just like how people could ignore that from a Christian woman. I've said this a couple of times when I talked about Mary Cosby, which is I feel like she has a lot of self-hatred for herself. In the season 1 reunion, when she tried to lie that she didn't say that about not wanting to go to 7-Eleven because Black people go there, Andy Cohen has like a follow-up question about how she feels towards Black people, her own people. And this right there tells me everything I need to know about Mary Cosby. She says she doesn't consider Robert Sr. Black. Andy Cohen's eyeballs popped open and was like, come again? And she's like, well, I don't consider him Black because, he's not Black, he's light skinned. And Andy's like, oh, okay. There is a book called Beloved by Toni Morrison. It's basically like Black literature. It's a classic novel. If you've ever read The Color Purple, she wrote a book called The Bluest Eyes. And the reason why the book is called The Bluest Eyes is because the main girl, the main Black girl, she wants to have blue eyes. She wants to be white. You also see this sort of self-hatred with Asians wanting to be white when they get eye surgeries. And I don't mean like wearing false eyelashes, I got the falsies on, but actual eye surgery. They will get surgery to change the shape of their eyes, the feature that really makes them look Asian, right? I think of someone like Michael Jackson. The Michael Jackson Thriller album was iconic. Yes, I am way too young for that album, but I have good taste, okay? Anyway, the Thriller album for Michael Jackson, when you see him in that album, he looks like a Black man. By the time he died, he looked like a white man with a wig and a bad nose job. I enjoyed Britney on my TV screen. I already said, let her take Whitney's snowflake. And I know people are like, oh, she's a shitty mother, like, she's crazy, all this other stuff. I definitely think Britney turns on the waterworks when it suits her. Because even in the Sprinter van, when she was caught recording, everybody started screaming at her and she legit started having a meltdown when she was like, but I actually enjoy watching her on my TV screen. So I don't stand anyone. If I was to stand someone, it would be Taylor Swift. But Britney, she doesn't bother me. I don't get the same reaction watching her on TV that I do with like Heather or Whitney or even Mary. But Britney, if you can't bring anything other than this weird shit with Jared, I don't want you back. because then it's just going to be like Whitney Rose's sixth season of healing journey bullshit. Come up with something else. They talk about Robert Jr. and his addiction problem. He's arrested. He's in jail. He's supposed to come out this next month in like a couple of weeks. So it'll be interesting to see if Robert Jr. is going to go back home or what. I give kudos to Mary for not being an enabler. The worst thing that you could do for an addict is to enable their addiction. Mary was like, I'd rather he be in jail because at least I know he's safe. He's not dead. He's not using. And sometimes when you're just at that point of addiction, you need jail. Jail's the only thing that's going to straighten you out because that's the only thing that's going to keep you clean. You know, I wonder if Rowan is going to have this energy for the other ladies that she has for Lisa when Lisa talks about Todd, which, by the way, that kissing and farting, I still think he did it. But you see in a unaired clip that Jared actually was talking shit about Todd, and he was saying it to Lisa. He was saying that like he goes to Dubai to get Happy Blue Pill. Why are you going all the way there? They have that shit here, man. Maybe it's more potent over there. The insurance market in this country is obnoxious and it's a disgrace. In the US, healthcare is about money, not about actual health. If you go into European countries like Norway, healthcare is about health. They will legit give you like over a year of maternal leave. And it's not just women that get it, fathers get it too. And you guys could split up the leave so that both of you are like home during that like developmental infant to toddler years. That is like wild to me because Norway is doing it like legit. I mean, I don't know. I was going to say maybe I could marry a Norwegian guy, but I love my husband. But if ever something was to happen, the next guy I'm marrying is definitely going to be a Norwegian guy. I'm just like, why is he going over to the Middle East to get happy pills? So it'll be interesting to see if Rowan has that energy for her other castmates. All your castmates talk about Todd. Okay, they absolutely do. And I never understand when they say Lisa lies. Every damn person on that cast lies. Every housewife on every franchise lies. Mary Cosby, that woman lies. That is no Mother Teresa. I'm surprised she hasn't gotten smite by God and struck down by a lightning bolt. So comments that are like, oh, Lisa's a liar. I find that so ridiculous because they're all damn liars. Legit, when people are like, is that you, Lisa? I'm like, yes, it is me. It actually is me because my name is Lisa. I'm Lisa from New York, but then real New York City, though. I don't know where the hell Lisa Barlow is from, but I'm from Queens, though. I'm a Queens girl. I feel like people who write that stuff, they can't cope with their favorite person that they see on their TV screen having criticism directed at them. Because then I'm just always like, well, the reverse Uno is just like, is that you, Rowan? That you married? But I also don't like the hypocrisy. So Whitney could say shit about John and Lisa's marriage since season one, but somehow Lisa's the mean girl and she's the bully and all this other stuff. Heather could do her whole black eye fiasco, but Lisa can't be trusted. So we're supposed to take Browan's word for why her ridiculous story of why she got charged, and we're supposed to believe that it's somebody else's court case and they sealed the record. I already told you guys why that was not legit, but we're supposed to take her word for it. But we need to go over a fine-tooth comb with something that is a civil case relating to Lisa's businesses. Even if you wanted to be as critical about Lisa's lawsuit, at its worst, it comes down to her owing people money. That's it. But we're supposed to make this into some scandalous thing as if she's committing felony fraud. Okay. Which I'll give it to Mary though. Like she ate her down. I felt like Lisa punked out though. Lisa, don't be afraid to get confrontational with her. I felt like she punked out. I wish she would have been like, I can understand why you hate Britney so much. You go through it every season when somebody brings up the fact that you're basically a cult leader and you're not the Christian woman that you want to pretend you are. That's why you hated Whitney for so long and called her a racist because she legit said you had a cult. And that's why you don't feel it for Britney because Britney called you out on Below Deck and was like, you're no Christian woman. Lisa, if you're a New Yorker, channel that inner New Yorker, okay? Pretend like you're riding the damn LIRR into the city or whatever it was that you were doing back in your day. But pretend like you took the LIRR and took the train into the city, okay? The actual train, the MTA subway train with your Metro card. I don't know if they were still using tokens back then. When I was riding the train, we had Metro cards, but you know. But I need you to start treating Mary like it's 3 a.m. You just came back from the club. You're on the damn train heading back to Long Island, and there's some wino smelling like cheap red wine in a box wanting to talk to you about Jesus and the apocalypse. I need you to treat Mary Cosby like that. Don't punk out. That is the thing. And I also said I liked the ladies a lot better when Jen Shaw was on the show because I felt like, when Jen Shaw was around, they had a little bit more ball and they were like, yeah, Mary, you're a grandfather fucker and you run a cult. It's why in those earlier seasons, she didn't like any of the ladies except for Meredith. Meredith was the only one not bringing up her cult church or her grandfather situation. But all the other ladies during the Jen Shaw season, they all brought it up. That's why she had problems with all of them. And that is why she cannot stand Brittany. And I'm actually being told that in Brittany's first season, which was last season, she has said similar things to Mary. So, and there's footages of it. Mary and Brittany, their interactions are only during filmed scenes. Bravo actually has interactions with Brittany calling Mary out on some of her bullshit, which is why I'm like, Brittany, you ain't no punk. They might not be showing everything, but you ain't no punk. I would like you back just for the fact that you're not a punk. I do feel like, Lisa, you punked out. And Mary did eat you down when she said that you have dark negative energy. But Mary Cosby, you're such a hypocrite because I would have hit her back with some of those hypocrisy. So why is it okay for Mary to sit there and say, I do move on. I moved on from you and Whitney saying my church is a cult. So you're able to move on from that. But Lisa and Meredith, they're not able to move on from her basically saying she fucked half of New York and she sent her husband. And, why don't you have a house? Because, your husband changes jobs every 2 seconds. Listen, saying that you're a whore and you fucked half of New York and that you cheat on your husband, I don't think it's as big a deal as everybody tries to make it seem. At this point, everybody's already said that about everyone. Every season, Whitney tries to say that about Lisa and John's marriage. I kind of feel like, you guys are making it more than it is. So we're supposed to accept the fact that Mary can move on from Whitney calling her a cult leader. Whitney is supposed to move on from Mary calling her a racist. Lisa is supposed to move on. Whitney every season bringing up sexual allegations of what she claims Lisa's doing, sexual allegations of what she claims John's doing. Everybody's supposed to move on from everything, but Lisa and Meredith, they can't move on. Lisa and Meredith, prior to filming season 1, already had a 10-year relationship. So at this point, it's been 16, 17 years. So if I've known you for 17 years and those 17 years, 10 of those years I was close to you, would I be able to move on from it? Would we still be able to be close? I don't think that they could ever be as close as they were prior to being on the show, and that happens with every relationship. Every friendship on the show deteriorates. It just does. Marriages deteriorates. So friendship is a lot weaker. So do I believe that they are as close as they were prior to there being a Real Housewives of Salt Lake City? No. But I do believe that of everyone on that cast, they have the closest relationship. Speaking of Jen Shaw, she's home back in Utah. Meredith actually said on Jeff Lewis that Jen and her talked. Meredith, please, for season 7, just freaking meet up with her for coffee. I know Andy Cohen said that Jen Shaw is not coming back. Is Andy Cohen the final say? No. He alone does not get to decide casting. Yes, he's an executive producer, but he alone does not get to decide everything. Now, I personally feel that Jen would probably not be offered a contract, right? Like she wouldn't be paid. She's not going to be a friend of, and she's definitely not going to be a full-time cast member. But I do feel that if Meredith was to have a lunch date or a coffee date with her, the Bravo cameras absolutely will film that and we will see that. Not having a contract is not the same as them not filming you. They'll film you if you're willing to do it for free. Meredith, you just meet her up with coffee and just be like, there's been so much crazy shit happening since you've been gone. I'm glad, you did your time and you're making restitution, but things have just been like wild. And I guarantee you, Jen would have been like, Meredith, don't let the grandfather fucker get you down. Anyway, this reunion was a snooze fest. We could have skipped part 2, but I feel like Andy Cohen, you need to retire the 3-part reunion so we could wrap it up in 1 part. It felt like it centered around Lisa again. I also didn't understand what the point of them trying to get a reaction out of Lisa was. So they're saying that when she's activated, right, that she screams, she shouts, she talks over people, all this other stuff. But then when she's not doing that, it's like, oh yeah, look at how she's acting. Have you noticed Lisa's acting different and all this other stuff? If she prepared, if she planned for it, if she went into this reunion telling herself, I'm going to be a certain way, then kudos to you. You're already ahead of the game. That's the best thing you could do when you're going into a situation that you know is going to be reactive. The best thing you could do is plan for it, is to tell yourself, I'm going to compose myself. I felt like they were trying to egg her on to try to get a reaction by like, oh yeah, look at how she's being all weird or doing this. You don't want her to be reactive, but at the same time, you're like, you got a lot of shit to say when she's not being reactive. And then her and Meredith, it's like you guys have a problem with them talking with each other, but you're whispering back and forth with Angie. So I don't understand what Heather's trying to go with this. Heather thinks she's a shot caller because the way she said to Meredith, "You're going down." Like, what the fuck was that, Meredith? Like, she's basically like, "Buckle up." Buckle up what, Heather? Like, don't make Meredith go and get Jen Shaw and give you another black eye. I still think it was fuck up Botox. So if we're going to run with your narrative of what happened, don't make Big Mare get Jen Shaw, okay? I need Meredith to be like, "Don't make me get Jen." You know how Nene told Kenya, "Don't make me get Portia"? You need to say that to Heather.